Vinyl Collection Part 46 within this series, continuing on with all the V's within my collection. And other than that, what's going to be playing in the background is going to be Ultra Sylvain, The Sanctity of Death. This is just really good, riff heavy, and gnarly as hell black metal. And this album actually came out this year, and a lot of people are sleeping on this because with its high explosive energy, I feel like it would appeal more to just people who enjoy like high energy extreme metal as opposed to just being like the black metal purists. So really killer stuff, and you guys definitely need to check this out if you haven't. Kicking off part 46 is going to be Volta Kunta with their album 666. So this is a really weird black metal, I guess you could call it that, project that blends a lot of experimentation of like psychedelic and power electronics. That I feel like their approach is they're trying to make like this really harsh, abrasive, like nightmarish acid trip is what this is trying to be. And it's interesting. It's really something different. It's not meant for, you know, the black metal fan that looks for all of the kind of like cliche components with black metal. Like if you want something really different within music, if it's like abrasive and harsh, definitely give this a listen. But other than that, I really can't recommend it unless you're purposely looking for something weird and different. But interesting nonetheless. Put it through Go to Warwick's. Back when I used to obsess over this distro, so for all I know, more than likely it's long gone sold out. So check Discogs if you want to score a copy of this. But other than that, for the layout and packaging with it, you have this really weird looking album artwork, backside with more artwork and track listings, and just comes on a standard black vinyl. Up next is the debut full-length album by Vargrav, Netherstorm. This was released back in 2017, and I remember just everyone and their mothers was hyping this album up so much. As I think the key component that really got it so much like praise by everyone is that it takes obvious influence from Emperors and the Nightside Eclipse, and I feel like it embodies the sounds and the composition of that album, but tries to bring it to a modern day audience within black metal, and some really killer stuff that, I don't know, if you want more of like a slick, aggressive, and again, modern day approach to Emperor, definitely check out Vargrav's Netherstorm. I know he also has a follow-up to this, which I think is something like Reign in Supreme Darkness or something like that, I think is the name of it. I know there's a follow-up to it, and I haven't gotten around to listening to it, which that's a big misstep on my part. But Netherstorm, believe the hype with this album, some killer stuff that I feel like anyone who is a black metal fan that keeps up with modern releases should definitely know of this, and if you haven't, you're screwing up big time. But as to where you can get this, I got my copy on Hell's Headbanger Records, and I'm pretty sure for the most part they still keep them in print. As I know, Werewolf Records is the one that pressed this, but I think Hell's Headbangers is the one that distributes everything. So check there if you want to score a copy. But as for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings and the picture of the sole member. This LP pressing does include a 7-inch with a picture disc pressing, which it's whatever, but I'm pretty sure all the first presses came with this 7-inch, and it's just bonus material, that being The Glory of Eternal Night and Ancient Queen, so pretty cool that this is included with it. And the LP pressing I got is on clear and purple split, which looks pretty cool. Proceeding on next to what is arguably a black metal classic to a lot of the people that keep up with all of the releases within black metal, and it's from 1995, which is just really extraordinary considering what black metal was trying to be during that time. These guys did something completely different from it. That would be Ved Buens Ende with their full-length album, Written in Waters. Again, this was released in 1995 originally. And while every other black metal band in Norway was trying to be like really raw and evil and talking about the Scandinavian landscape, and again just having like that very necro approach with it, Ved Buens Ende did something very different, as Yes, there is black metal, but there's also clean singing. There's a bit of jazz influence. It also gets to like this post-rock territory of something that like Slint with their album Spiderlands was doing. Like, there's a lot of experimentation on here. It's very unorthodox. Back in 1995, and even for today's standards, it's very unorthodox. That arguably you could say this is the album that really influenced a lot of newer avant-garde black metal bands that have been spouting out. Stuff like Deathspell Omega and Blue Aus Nord definitely took influence from this, and it shows. Tracks on here like Carrier of Wounds, arguably one of the earliest examples of avant-garde black metal, and it's a work of art, to say the least, within the style of music that I feel like if you think black metal is just one-dimensional, this is an album that will make you feel really stupid if you ever were to think that. So really killer stuff and way ahead of their time. And I'm happy to see now that there's been more attention with this album, because Soul Cellar Records recently has been doing a lot of represses for it. And when I saw that they did a second press for it, got it up right away and bought it, because the first press is impossible to get. The second press has the ugliest album artwork they could have used for it. Like, I hate the second pressing of the LP variant. It's so just... So finally they did a proper repress, in my personal view, with the correct album artwork. The only difference is there's like a border of this white around it, but for the most part it's very similar to that of the first press, so I don't really have many complaints with it. As for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with track listings, comes on a gatefold with lyrics inside, double LP that come on semi-translucent red vinyl. Continuing on with even more black metal, next up is Velvet Cocoon with their sophomore full-length album, Genevieve. So these guys are a black metal duo from Portland, Oregon that blend like dark ambient music, raw black metal, and a bit of like psychedelic influence for good measure. That if you want a more like trippy version of Paysage d'Hiver, definitely check out Velvet Cocoon. But for the most part, these guys are known for all their controversy, lies, and rumors that is spread around by one of the members, saying that there were supposed breakups or reformations, that one of the members went to an insane asylum. And I think what they're really known for in terms of controversy is some of the ambient portions that is used within some of their albums. They basically have ripped it off from other artists, I'm pretty sure, is from what I've heard. So again, they're not like the most reliable in terms of being straightforward and truthful to people. But in terms of just overall songwriting, it's really killer stuff that, again, if you enjoy Paysage d'Hiver, you want more of like that spacey, ambient take of raw black metal, definitely check out Velvet Cocoon. But I think for the most part, they're just done, because they haven't done anything in like almost 10 years. But you can get a lot of their copies pretty easily on Discogs. I'm pretty sure they're still easy to get. I got mine at a record store years ago, but should still be easy to find. Put out through Southern Lord, and one thing I really enjoy about this packaging is I like the material they have on the front here. It's got like that velvet kind of like fabric with it, which is really cool, and I like that. Backside has the original artwork for this album. It's a double LP that come with printed inner sleeves, so you again have side 1 of the OG artwork, side 2, which I'm pretty sure is just kind of like the chemical compound for a drug for all I know. Then there's side 3 and side 4, which I'm guessing are the band members, and this is just the standard black LP edition. Which now leads to even more black metal. Next up is Vehemence with their sophomore full-length album, Parley Sang Verse. I would love for them to get their debut full-length album on an LP press, and hopefully Antique does that, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of delayed, considering that Vehemence wasn't on Antique during that time. But I am very hyped for them to get the third album that came out this year, Ordalius, on LP. I know they promised it back in March, but like everything, there's a lot of delays, so just cross my fingers that hopefully they announce it soon, because I need to get the LP pressing of the latest album. But Partly Sang Verse, I would say, is the album that got Vehemence a reliable reputation. It's kind of built on the fan base, because again, it's very hyper melodic black metal that resembles a lot of the styles you would get from Dissection, Storm the Light's Bane. But again, like most French black metal bands, they add their own little flair with it. And all of like these grand triumphant choirs and choruses and the little folk interlude songs they have kind of like laced together with everything, it makes for some killer music that I just cannot get sick of this album, and they deserve all the attention they've gotten from it. That again, it kind of feels like you're storming a castle in medieval France, and this would be like black metal music that you would listen to hype yourself up. So definitely check this out if you haven't. As for the layout and packaging with it, you have album artwork, backside of the track listing, comes on a gatefold with artwork inside. This also includes an inner sheet with lyrics on one side and credits on the other. Double LP that come on plain black vinyl, but side D has a print of this artwork with a knight on horseback, which looks really cool. Next LP is Vessels of Inequity. This is just really abrasive and super barbaric war metal, and not war metal that resembles bands like Blasphemy or Black Witchery. It's not like that. I would say it's like the next level of war metal, stuff like Tetragrammaticide, that it has more like power electronics and noise elements that makes it super abrasive. It's just a really dense, super sharp, ear-piercing album that's just meant to like blow out your eardrums, essentially, is I feel like what they're going for here. But it's interesting when bands go for this like super Bastille sounding, you know, style of extreme metal, and they blend other components with it to really push the boundaries with it. And I gotta give this project credit for doing that. Really interesting stuff. But again, if you're not a fan of war metal, you're not a fan of like super abrasive extreme metal, stay away from this, because it's really loud, to put it blunt. Other than that, for the layout and packaging, not a fan of it. As I got this on their Bandcamp when it was originally released like a handful of years ago for like $10, but the layout I just can't stand, because it's not really in a jacket. It's one of these like over glorified papers that just fold out halfway. So I don't know, I hate this layout so much. But yeah, you got band logo on the other side, additional artwork within the fold, and other than that, comes with an insert sheet with letters, I guess, there, and really cool artwork on the other side. And this LP pressing just comes on standard black. Finally, something that isn't black metal is up next within this vinyl collection part, that I consider it one of the greatest pieces of music I've ever heard. It's beautiful as it is energetic and entertaining. It's really the best of both worlds in my personal view, and it's a breakcore album. And I'm talking about Venetian Snares with his 2005 full-length album it's Hungarian, and I'm pretty sure it translates to Born Under a Bad Star. And wow, this album is so incredible. Again, it's breakcore, which is like a mixture of electronic, glitch, drum and bass, jungle music, and a handful of other styles, wherever really the artist wants to attach with it. Like, breakcore is just a melting pot of different styles. It's really, really difficult to explain, and that's why I find so much interest with breakcore. It can go in so many different directions. It's very fluid, and because of that, it is kind of difficult to get into, because there's so many weird ways to make it. But I would say Venetian Snares is one of the big names and respected names. That's a good gateway project if you want to get into breakcore, other than Igor, which most metal fans know that project. But Venetian Snares as a whole, when getting into breakcore, definitely check out this album, because again, it blends breakcore, but the selling point for me is all of the usage of classical music blended together. So you're going to get like the schizophrenic sound of breakcore with the elegancy of classical music, and it's just so incredible. I love this album from start to finish, and it's a work of art, simply put. And I know I'm kind of like hyping it up, but I don't know how else to explain it. It's something that just needs to be listened to by people who enjoy creative music. But yeah, other than that, finally this got a repress, because for the longest time it was a one and only time press, and I was going for like dumb money, and I was always so tempted to pull the trigger on it, but thankfully it got a repress and snatched it up right away when it did. And hopefully there are still copies floating around online, so definitely check with a search on Google or something, because other than that, Discogs is the last resort and people are already inflating it to like $100. But again, can't stress it enough. If you want to get into breakcore as a whole, Venetian Snares is like one of the best places to start out. But as for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, double LP that come on gold vinyl. Right back to black metal we go, because next up is VI, which I know is Roman numeral for 6, but this is a French black metal band that's very melodic. Best way to compare it is it's basically Decibel Omega, but just more emphasis on melody and not so much with experimentation. And I love everything that this band has done. Pretty sure one of the members, but it might be both members, I know it shares members, however, from the band Aosoth. So if you enjoy Aosoth or Decibel Omega, again, VI, definitely check this band out. This EP was put out through Agonia, and I'm pretty sure there are still copies available on Agonia. My only gripe with that distro is they take a long time to ship. The handful of times that I have bought from them, get ready to wait like a good solid 2 months for the LP to come in. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's the fact that they take a while when it comes to customs or whatever with the United States, but all of my experiences buying from this distro has been a bit iffy, but they got VI stuff and I just have to get it. But anyway, for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, comes on a gatefold with both band members inside, and it's just on standard black vinyl. Then I have their debut full-length album that I have spun this so many times. Again, as I stated, it's like Decibel Omega, but just more emphasis on melody, and this album is so good from start to finish. I would pronounce the songs, but it's all in French. Even the album is in French, so I can't pronounce anything because I will butcher it so bad. But the melodies are just so goddamn infectious, but they're so pulverizing at the same time. This album is just so killer. And again, I've spun it like dozens and dozens of times and just can't get sick of it. So again, if you like Aosoth, Decibel Omega, and you just want more emphasis on melody, you got to check out VI. Again, put out through Agonia Records, so if you want to score a copy, go there. As for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, comes on a gatefold, and this LP pressing comes on semi-translucent blue vinyl. And the last release I have by VI is a 3-way split they did with the Order of Apollyon and Temple of Baal. Bought this specifically only for the VI side, and unsurprisingly, it's the best of the three. As Temple of Baal has never really clicked with me, and the Order of Apollyon, it's decent, but again, the VI side with the just really energetic and hyper melodic black metal style that they do is just so good. And it sucks, this is the last thing they've ever done, as this was released back in 2017, so they've been silent for quite a handful of years, so hopefully one day they get back on the horse with making new music, but for the time being, I'm enjoying what they left for us. But once again, put it through Agonia Records, and again, go there if you really want to get any material by VI. As for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with track listings. This is the special edition, limited to 110 copies. I got number 39 out of 110. This also includes an insert sheet with lyrics on one side and credits on the other. This LP edition comes on gold, but side B is etched, which I'm not sure it's really showing on camera, but it's basically the album artwork just etched on side B. Continuing on to Vital Remains, Dechristianize. This is from 2003, I believe is when this album was released. And I have quite the soft spot with Vital Remains, as it's one of the first ever death metal bands I listened to that got me into extreme metal. It's one of the first ever death metal bands I saw live, as they're from Providence, Rhode Island, and that's around my area, so they play a lot of shows around Massachusetts. And again, it's just a really big gateway band for me when it came to exploring death metal, and I'll give them that. But maybe after all these years, my tastes have changed quite a bit with music. That I'm realizing now what Vital Remains really is. It's basically just deicide worship, only they're trying to play faster and more epic in scope, because these songs do not need to be like 6.5 minutes to 10 minutes long. Like, it gets really overwhelming. Like, hearing a song that is for 10 minutes long and the BPM is like 260, again, it's really overwhelming and gets kind of like overdone for the most part, in my personal view. But I will say the title track, Dechristianize, that song fucking slays on this album, and how it connects with the intro. Can never get sick of that particular song. But other good songs on here are Infidel and Unleash Hell, which just makes it all the more apparent that it's deicide worship if those are the song titles. But yeah, it's all the more apparent that they would worship deicide, because this is the first album that they got Glenn Benton on lead vocals. That basically, it's just like, think of deicide's Legion, but just faster, and just the songs are longer, is basically what this album is. But yeah, for the most part, I still enjoy this album. And actually now, the LP pressings for Vital Remains with like the Glenn Benton era are getting quite difficult to find, so I kind of lucked out in finding this at a record store. But yeah, one of the first ever death metal albums that I really obsessed over was Vital Remains with Dechristianize. As for the layout and packaging, however, with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listing, comes on a gatefold, double LP that come on printed inner sleeves, so you have side A and B with just lyrics and credits, along with side C with more additional lyrics, and side D with a band photo, and just comes on standard black vinyl. Then I have their follow-up, that being Icons of Evil. This was released back in, I think, 2006, and this is their latest full length, and I'm pretty sure this is the last thing they've ever done. They've been silent for a long time. They still do shows, but they haven't done any new material. And again, one of the first ever death metal albums. I really obsessed over this, and Dechristianize were like the two gateway albums for me. And other than that, the nostalgic value is what really sells me on this, because all the complaints I had with Dechristianize, I just said, this album kind of like really embodies that all the more, because again, every single song ranges around 6.5 minutes to 10 minutes long, and it's just really overwhelming. It's super just obnoxious, fast death metal that just, again, kind of goes over my head, and I don't really absorb anything other than just fast music being played. But two songs on here that I really enjoy, of course, the fan favorite, Hammer Down the Nails. I feel like the intro is something that like every Vital Remain fan knows. And the follow-up track, that being Sharpenal Embedded Flesh, which has a really catchy hook. But again, other than that, every other song is just like 260 BPM, just goes right over my head with just the aggressive, obnoxious playing, and nothing really sticks for me. So, I don't know, Vital Remains, other than the nostalgic value, it's just an okay death metal band for the most part. I'm trying not to be like in an insulting way. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging with it, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, This comes on a gatefold as well. Double LP with printed inner sleeves. So side A with lyrics, side B with Glenn Benton making a really weird looking face. Then you have side C with additional lyrics and side D with credits. And this LP variant comes on blue vinyl. Nearing the end within this vinyl collection part, up next is Void Meditation Cult with their compilation Sulphurous Prayers of Light and Darkness. So this is a compilation compiled of new material by Void Meditation Cult and their previous band, that being Sperm of Antichrist, the original name for it, but they changed it to Void Meditation Cult because it sounds a hell of a lot cooler than Sperm of Antichrist. But overall, what this is it's basically really dense, ritualistic black metal that takes a lot of influence from Behemoth. Just overall, it's a more ritualistic version of Behemoth. It's really killer stuff. Put out through Hell's Headbanger Records that I got at Armageddon years ago, and I'm pretty sure it's long gone sold out. But I know they did a follow-up to this, which was a full length, and that album's actually really good, and I've been meaning to get that for the longest time, but I've always held it off. But again, if you want to get anything by Void Meditation Cult, go to Hell's Headbangers Records. Again, if you enjoy just really dense, ritualistic black metal, this should definitely appeal to you. But other than that, for the layout and packaging with it, you have album artwork, backside, comes on a gatefold, and as I pointed out, you have Sperm of Antichrist, their original name, and Void Meditation Cult, the new name. This also includes an A2 poster that's double-sided. One side has Sperm of Antichrist, and the other side is Void Meditation Cult of the album artwork. And this LP edition comes on clear vinyl. Second to last is going to be Void Prayer, Stillbirth from the Psychotic Void. This is one of the handful of bands that are part of the Black Plague Circle, and simply put, it's just Les Legion's Noir worship. That is really minimalistic, stripped down, raw black metal. That's really all this is. The reverb and rawness is the thing that's going to consume you. That, yeah, not much else to say with it. Put out through Go to Work, so it's long gone sold out, sadly. But, yeah, if you enjoy the Les Legion's Noir, Void Prayer should definitely be right up your alley. As for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with track listings. This also includes an inner sheet with the band logo on one side, credits on the other, and it's just on standard black vinyl. And the last record for this vinyl collection part is Violet Cold with their album from 2021, Empire of Love. Now, this is a one-man post-black metal project from Azerbaijan, which that's different to hear something out of that country, that I've known about Violet Cold for a while. And yeah, it blends post-black metal and a lot of experimentation of like ambience, shoegaze, electronics. Like, there's a lot more experimentation going on with it. And while I never thought it was all that great from the previous albums, I never really bothered with checking out anything else from them. And honestly, I never would have checked out this album or even known of it if it wasn't for like all the negativity it was getting by the black metal fan base. Because again, I understand you don't like post-black metal, because I don't even care for it that much. Like, a lot of it just sounds like Alcest worship. I get that. Like, I'm not really crazy for it, and personally, Lantlos sweeps the floor with all of it, so I don't even bother checking out really any other like black gaze or post-black metal bands. And really, again, the only reason this got my attention was the negativity about it. And I just thought it was odd that so many people were blatantly announcing that this album's not that special, it's not that good, blah blah blah. Like, I get it, you don't like it, but why exactly are you announcing that you don't like it? Like, I feel like the album artwork gives off like a reaction to just announce that it's not good. And because of that, I checked it out, and for the most part, it's pretty good. Tracks in here like Significant, Be Like Magic, and Pride, really catchy tunes that I would say for the most part now the guy from Violet Cold is adding more like groove within the riffs and hooks, and yeah, it really catches my attention for the most part. Again, for me personally, it's nothing special. It's nothing that's like breaking new grounds. But if you want more of like an unorthodox take with black gaze or black or post black metal, definitely give this album a chance. But yeah, pretty solid stuff for the most part. As for the layout and packaging with it, you have album artwork with the dreaded LGBTQ pride flag, backside with the track listings, and just comes on single standard black vinyl. And that'll do it for this vinyl collection part. Like always, I'll leave links provided to everything I talked about in the description below, and that'll do it. So like always, guys, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and have a great day.